Well, hello again, and welcome to Answers on Eschatology. My name is Dan Derry, and I'm the president of the Institute of Fulfilled Eschatology. We're going to continue in our series and in our studies on the paradigm of a first century covenantal transition. And if you haven't seen the first couple of videos, catch those up. It'll bring you up to speed with the first century covenantal transition. And basically, what we're demonstrating in the videos going forward is that from 30 to 70 AD, there was a covenantal transition taking place. The old covenant was passing away and the new covenant was being established. And in that transition, man's redemption, man's salvation was being fully accomplished. And guys, let me just say this before we go any further. This doctrine, this paradigm of covenantal transition is one of victory, and it's one of a finished work. It teaches and it demonstrates that we have a consummated salvation in Jesus Christ. Listen, if people are teaching today that we are still in a transitional period, that salvation and atonement and the redemption of the body and all these things are yet future, then they're preaching and teaching an unfinished work, okay? An unfinished redemption. And obviously, we reject that paradigm completely. It may challenge our ideas and some paradigms and traditions, but nonetheless, it is a doctrine of victory and of a finished work in Jesus Christ. And that's why I love this. So, let's jump in, and in this video, we're going to demonstrate that the Old Covenant had not fully passed away 30-something years after the cross. Hebrews chapter 8. And we will look at verses, can't type while I'm talking. Hebrews 8, verse 7 to 13. For if that first covenant had been faultless, there would have been no occasion sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, when I will effect a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not like the covenant which I made with their fathers on that day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt. For they did not continue in my covenant, and I did not care for them, says the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says the Lord. I will put my laws in their hearts, and I will write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. In verse 13, when he said a new covenant, he has made the first obsolete, and whatever is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. So watch this. Just at face value, this one verse, verse 13 alone, proves that the old covenant had not been taken away. It had not been fulfilled 32 years or so after the cross. Listen, when he says a new covenant, he has made the first obsolete or old, but whatever is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. Now, what we must understand about this verse is the present tenses. Listen, whatever is becoming obsolete, present tense, and is growing old, present tense, is ready, present tense, to vanish away. The old covenant hadn't been taken away. It hadn't been fulfilled. It was growing old, and it was ready to vanish away. Now, I want to bring out an important point in this text. And this concept right here, what I'm going to say, proves what we've learned earlier in these studies, is that there was a period of transition, and already but not yet. And what I mean by that is that certain elements of redemption, or even the establishing of the covenants, it was taking place. It had been initiated, but it was not yet consummated. And we see this regarding the covenants in this text. Listen, it says he has made the first covenant obsolete. So it's already been made old or obsolete. And here's how. It was made old or obsolete in the sense that it was no longer necessary to atone for sin. And it was done through the cross of Jesus Christ, right? Through the cross, the old covenant had been rendered old or obsolete in the sense that it was no longer necessary and it no longer held any power to atone for sin. But watch this. But whatever is becoming obsolete and growing old is ready to vanish away. So it had been made obsolete or old, but it was still being made obsolete and old. And here's how we need to understand this. For sin and atonement, it was rendered old. It was no longer necessary. But according to or concerning prophecy and concerning the fulfillment of promises that were to come from the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, it was still growing old, meaning the promises of both blessing and cursing hadn't been fulfilled yet. And this is why the Old Covenant hadn't passed away. Remember Matthew 5:18. Until every jot and every tittle were fulfilled and fully accomplished, none of the law and the prophets would be taken away. None of them would pass away. This is exactly what we see in Hebrews 8:13. It was made old and rendered old and obsolete concerning sin, concerning atonement. But it was being made old and being made obsolete because it was still being fulfilled. And until it was fully fulfilled, in other words, until all the promises under that covenant were fully accomplished in Jesus Christ and fulfilled in Jesus Christ, it couldn't be taken away. It couldn't be made old in the sense of unnecessary. Okay? It still remained covenantally binding upon Israel until all of those promises under that covenant were fully accomplished. That's a powerful, powerful truth. Okay? The new covenant, the old covenant, remained covenantally binding upon Israel until all of the promises under that covenant were fully accomplished. And we'll show that next video specifically in Hebrews chapter 9 as well. So guys, that's all I have for this time. I want to say more, but time's ticking. We'll pick it up next time. God bless.